And hello, and welcome to the Cheapseats. This is the weekly English Premier League show. I've got a full house with me tonight, today, and ask that you obviously please do like, subscribe to the channel, the One World Sports Radio channel. We've got some cricket going on, so after playing New Zealand currently in Christchurch, and so we've got commentary starting at midnight in South Africa for that. But most importantly, remember the show is sponsored. The show is sponsored by Classic Shirts ZA. So I'm going to put their logo there right next to us. And this week's kit is Jean Emil's probably one of his favorite kits. I don't know if it is, but our kit of the week is that Liverpool 1994-95 kit with Mo Salah. Modeling it, but it's not a Mo Salah kit. It's an Ian Rush kit, Jean Emile, and obviously you can use the discount code Cheapseats50. Jean, when you look at that kit, what does it make you feel, or what do you think?
Well, the funny thing about that kit is it was used both in 94-95, but the year previously, 93-94, which was quite a horrible year. So it was a year which Liverpool finished 8th in the league. They had a lot of aging players. Graham Souness was in charge, and it didn't look like they were doing much. It didn't look like they were progressing. Of course, we did see the debut of a young Robbie Fowler that season, which was a particularly high moment for the local Liverpool fans. So obviously that was a nice spark in what was otherwise a dismal campaign. But the next year, 94-95, that's obviously the one we remember it by. Liverpool finished 4th that year under the Evans, how we call it, tenure. But it was that fast-flowing, dynamic football. You had McManaman and you had Fowler. You had Clough coming in to support Rush, but in the end, actually, Fowler was just incredible that year. You had Neil Ruddock shoring up the defense. I can't say it was still the best year. David James then became the first-choice goalkeeper. And Evans really built this kind of exciting football. Once again, you could be proud to be a Liverpool fan. Jamie Redknapp then starting in the midfield, and it laid the foundations ultimately for the Hulia era. But certainly that 94-95 was an exciting time to just enjoy the football again after what had been a really sour note in Liverpool's progression.
Yes, that's quite interesting because obviously in the late 80s, Liverpool was so great. And then they went through that period up until, as you mentioned, 94-95, where there was a rebuilding phase. Remember that not only you can get that Liverpool shirt with our Cheapseats50 discount code, you can also get the lovely shirts that Jean Emile and Wahid are wearing. Jean Emile's wearing the Kenny Dalglish edition, the Crown edition. It's a Crown-sponsored Liverpool shirt, the Umbro shirt, and then Wahid's got that Manchester United sharp jersey. Wahid, I know your team's not doing that well. Is this your way of going through, comforting yourself with what's been happening with your team?
Yeah, I'm actually, but I've always been a bit of a kit collector. I think I'm only like 2 or 3. I think I'm only 2 kits short of having one United kit from every year since I'm born. So, I can try and finish off the collection using Classic Shirts ZA, and it happens to be the years I was like hectically anti-Glazer in the more current past when I didn't buy a kit. So I'll have to decide whether I want to get on board and buy those kits now to finish the collection because it's quite close to completion. I will say that Jean's shirt belongs in the bin where most of Merseyside find their meals.
Okay, done all the fighting. But now, let's start. This has been an intriguing week in the Premier League. Arsenal had a bye, so it's been a great week for me. Thank you, Teppo, for playing in the Club World Cup. How do you feel about Chelsea winning the Club World Cup? Because, we all are like, oh, wow, well done. Every team from Europe should win the Club World Cup, but does it give you any significance? Do you feel like, yes, we've got our trophy of the season?
Look, it's another trophy that some other teams can't say that they got. So we're just racking up silverware, and it's always good to win and good to see connections happening.
Why are you wearing a Liverpool jersey?
It's my girlfriend's. I don't.
Ooh.
My Chelsea kit got stolen.
Guys,
Last
this
Christmas.
is a whole nother discussion. This is a whole nother discussion. When you start wearing the colors of a team you don't support because your girlfriend supports them.
Look, I support
Hey, look,
good football.
it's the new age
Liverpool is a
supporter.
good team. It's a good team, and it's a free
I can't even
jacket.
condone that
I'm
as
cold.
a fan. And isn't that a United top?
No, it's a Liverpool one. Was there?
Oh, wow, it really is.
Yeah, it's taking us back to 2010. Okay, simple. Okay, question about that. In that Club World Cup, there were some dodgy moments that Chelsea kind of showed us. Are you worried about what was going on in the Club World Cup? Do you think it was complacency, or do you think it's a continuation of what's been happening in the Premier League?
I think it's got a lot to do with injuries as well. Just in terms of shoring up the back line with Reece James, Ben Chilwell, they've been out for like most of the season. So they're not operating at full strength. As for Luqueta, I mean, he's a legend, a club legend, but his time has passed. He's not like at his peak anymore. The key issue for me with Chelsea is just the goal scoring. You'd hope that they'd be a little bit more prolific to sort of cover that deficit or cover when injuries do come. And it's good to see that goals were actually scored. Sorry?
Imagine you signed a £100 million striker to ease that goal scoring burden. Imagine.
A striker that scored. He scored. I mean, he scored, didn't he? And then we won.
A £100 million striker, and you're complaining about a lack of goals.
Wahid, we've put him on fraud watch already. The other problem is Timo Werner, and I think that's a much bigger problem with Thomas Tuchel.
You see, and I mean, at least Lukaku striking. At least we won the game. At least we're sitting comfortably in the top three.
So I wouldn't be excited. But
yeah, I mean, we also conceded a penalty, so cancels out.
And or whatever it was, and
Lukaku
spent longer. And Lukaku spent longer at the supper buffet than in front of goal.
Still scored them.
Okay, let's stop with the Lukaku slander. Jean-Emile, your AFCON stars have come back. Mane, the African champion, he's going to get a stadium named after him. You've also got Mo Salah back. How does it feel? And in this period, I think Liverpool was the one side that actually played well without their AFCON stars. How do you feel? Can you catch Manchester City in this run-in? Because I think you're the one club that's close enough to catch them.
Our game in hand is against Leeds and Norwich at home. So, on paper, you would say those are definitely must win and very much winnable games. That would leave us 6 points behind with about 12 games remaining in the season. Listen, it's not impossible, not by any stretch, especially because we still have to play City, albeit at the Etihad. If through some miracle, then we go on to beat them at the Etihad, that's 3 points in it. I mean, we've seen far crazier things in football, let's be honest.
Yes. You just have to remind Wahid about 2011.
Well, I mean, Manchester United did overcome that. Oh, sorry, it was City that overcame that eight-point deficit. Sorry, but nonetheless,
95, the gap was bigger between us and Newcastle, and we ended up winning the league in this jersey. So it's not insurmountable, that lead. And if there's one team in the league who could beat City on their day, actually not even beat. It doesn't even have to be a perfect storm. Liverpool can go toe to toe with City.
Yes.
Liverpool are a good side and are probably on their day probably more equipped to win a once-off game against Manchester City than Manchester City are to win against Liverpool. Manchester City are really good at wiping away teams in the lower half of the league. But when they come toe to toe with the big boys, sometimes they do come unstuck, especially against a heavy pressing side. And it wouldn't be unimaginable to see Liverpool beating City and going on a long run to claim that Premier League title. I will say one thing, and if you look at Liverpool at the moment, I compared to side like United sides of the past. Liverpool lose Mo Salah or lose someone to injury, and it doesn't matter who comes into the side is able to go on and be just as effective without those star players. I remember United winning a league with Michael Carrick playing the majority of games at centre half and Darren Fletcher playing the majority of games at right back. And it's just that siege mentality, it's just that squad harmony that creates when you don't have issues like player power, when everybody's just playing for one cause, has a winning mentality. And anyone is able to come in and fulfill the role that they need to fulfill to win games. It's just that cog that keeps going, and Klopp has created such a winning mentality and such a winning machine that I wouldn't look past Liverpool winning a double this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they went on and win the Premier League and the Champions League.
Wow, I've never heard such amazing.
Wow, glowing words. Glowing words.
Wow.
Wahid's leading us to our topic of the day. Our main topic of the day is about player power. Is it good for football? I look at two cases, Manchester United right now and Arsenal. Arsenal have gone through a period of 3 years where we've seen stars like Ozil and Sanchez dictate things and change dressing rooms and dictate the way in which the club moved forward or the way in which the club interacted with it. But under Mikel Arteta over the past year, he's managed to clean out shop. All those prima donnas, all those big name players, all the people that don't follow the rules, the team rules, are out. Even though I disagree with it, I really do. I kind of feel like there needs to be a balance. But he's the extreme side. Whereas if you look at Manchester United, on the other end, it's like it's a collection of, it's a galaxy of stars. It reminds me of Real Madrid. It's Real Madrid's Galacticos, but a cheaper version, a wish version of the Galacticos.
It hurts.
No, but like
it hurts to see it.
It's not Beckham, it's not Makelele, but they're still good enough. But they just it feels as though they just run the roost. And
yeah, can I just jump in there, Umpo? Yes, I must say, like, one of my favorite players to watch and just is Jesse Lingard. And he was doing so well at West Ham, and you could have just left him at West Ham, but United brought him back. You thought maybe you'd see him a little bit. He's nowhere to be seen. And it feels like careers are dying there. And it's Phil Jones as well, another example, you know. Why isn't he playing in Italy or something, you know?
He refused to move to France, to be fair.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
What club was it?
Bordeaux.
Oh, Bordeaux. That would have been very nice. Some of our loanees are doing really well in France. So Saliba's like player of the month for like the 9th time this year for Marseille. So it's really wild.
Can we start
You've
this? Can we follow on just what Teppo said? And I think that the Jesse Lingard situation is actually quite the antithesis of what's happened at Man United for so long, because generally Man United have bought into player power, and Man United historically through the Ed Woodward era, which I'm going to note down as the worst era in the club's history, apart from maybe the 50s when we lost a whole team to a Munich air disaster. I would say that quite the opposite happened with Jesse Lingard. Man United laid down the marker and put a value on their player, and Newcastle were unwilling to pay that price, and Man United didn't give into player power. It would be very easy to give into Jesse Lingard's whim to go on another loan, which would have cost the club money, and Man United decided to not buy into that. So I think that the Jesse Lingard situation is actually the first steps towards breaking the player power at Old Trafford and saying this is how the club runs, and you either fit in or you ship out when and if it may happen. I think the problem at United, which has created a lot of player power, is Ed Woodward. He's given aging stars long-term contracts so that managers are unable to shift on players that they don't deem worthy of a spot in the squad. I think that if we look at Man United right now, it's very similar to the Man United pre-Ferguson. You had Man United pre-Ferguson were probably the best team, the best collection of individual players in the league, but they couldn't play as a team. Yeah. Under Ron Atkinson, they had bought into player power, and Ron Atkinson was very much a friend of the players instead of their manager, instead of their boss. And he bought into this player power so much so that players like Gordon Strachan and Clayton Blackmore were at the pub drinking on the morning of a game. That was the extent of the player power at the time, and they were still picked, and they were professional footballers. They were picked, and they weren't performing to the level that they should have been playing to. And Ferguson came in, and he was the first person to break that player power and say that the final power should lie with a boss, should lie with a manager. And Man United now in 2022, it's not a case of them drinking in the pub in the mornings, because that's sort of a different type of player power, but it's similar. The player power has been bought into, and we need to find someone who's willing to come in and say that this is where it stops. The ultimate power lies with the manager, and it doesn't lie with the players. And until such time that happens, I think that we'll always have a very fractured dressing room, a very cliquey dressing room, and a dressing room without any harmony, which is exactly exactly the opposite of what you see at Liverpool. They're bought into the squad harmony. Klopp is their leader. Klopp is the custodian of everything they want to do, and we don't have that. And that's what we need. We need someone to take on that role.
What
Jean,
I think, yeah.
Can I just ask a question to add on to your? In France, PSG, that's player power central.
Oh,
How does that work? Because it feels as though whoever the coach is doesn't matter. The players dictate terms.
it does not matter. It is the pinnacle of everything that is wrong with football. And I would say that it started with, I won't say exactly with the Qatari ownership in 2011 when Nasser Al-Khelaifi came in, but certainly that engendered the start of the culture. I would even go as far as to say that when Ibrahimovic and Cavani were leading the line, they had a lot of say. But even then, there was still a much closer, tight-knit togetherness. When Neymar arrived, that all went out the window. And, just in terms of the money that he arrived on, what he was able to do, what he's able to, just dictate on his own terms, making, and it raises the questions, amongst the fan base of who really cares for the team. Of course, now you've got Messi, who's just not performing at all. And it still seems that he's got such a sway on the way things are going. And, obviously then the likes of Mbappe, who really actually, I have to give him kudos. If he goes to Real Madrid, for instance, it means he actually cares about his legacy in football. And he doesn't actually care about, what all the stardom that he's going to be offered at PSG in terms of an individual player and the things that he's going to get to dictate. As it stands, PSG are offering him by far the biggest salary that has ever been offered, £500,000 a week before anything else. For a 22
total package will be close to €1 million a week.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, €1 million a week.
The total package will be close to €1 million a week.
Why would you leave the money behind? And that's my thing right now. These guys are getting paid a lot of money. And so, Jean, Salah's going into those contract talks with Liverpool about his new contract. And I know Klopp feels to me, and I might disagree with Wahid, to be like a balance. He's like their friend, but he's also the manager.
The boss.
He's found the perfect equilibrium, I have to say, because, everyone loves a Klopp hug, but that if you piss him off, I mean, you see him lambasting players on the sidelines for not doing their job properly. And it really sends a tingle up your spine. You don't need the hairdryer in the dressing room. It's right there out on the field. But that if you do put the effort in, if you do everything that you are asked to do, the rewards are just endless. And the same applies right through the system, from young Harvey Elliott making his Champions League debut, youngest ever player yesterday, to Mo Salah, who is now, looking for a contract worth about $400,000 a week. It's very much a meritocratic system, which he's, put in place. And it's a system where players respect him as the senior figure, Klopp, but they also feel like you could have a beer with him at the same time. So it's like having a beer with your dad. I know it's weird to say, but
John, but I mean, what Klopp's done really well is that he's put markers in place. So he's bought a player like Diogo Jota, and he's bought Diaz. So he almost speaks to his stars through his purchases by saying that sign the contract. If you don't sign, it's fine. You are replaceable. You're replaceable within my system. Sign your contract or don't. It's not a problem. I'll carry on winning.
I would have said that. Absolutely.
He's not buying into the play. He's not buying into player power. He's not making one player irreplaceable within his system.
Yes. Unlike Mikel Arteta, who sends a striker away and does not have somebody else to fill the gap. But we're okay with that because we were not going into player power, right?
John, sorry, did you say you were disagreeing with me?
No, I want to just add a caveat to that, in that takes time. And that's what building a squad is about. And you have to have the manager and put faith in him. But also the manager has to show enough that he's got the mentality to improve the base players underneath. You cannot overstate the importance of players like Tsimikas, what he did for Robertson, now Diaz, what he might do for Mane. I mean, it's astounding what it helps, raising the entire unit and the entire squad. So, I mean, that kind of mentality, that kind of culture, we would love to see in all teams, but unfortunately, it's just not the way that it is.
Once upon a time, you talk about those players like Timikas and those players who come in and around, who are in and around the squad, but not necessarily the star names. And once upon a time, Man United had the same thing. You talk about players like Park Ji-sung, who was able to come in and always do a stellar job to do his job, but he wasn't necessarily a star name or star player. But he very much in that mold of a player that Liverpool have within their ranks now, who's willing to bide his time, play his to his absolute maximum when he's called upon, but realize that he is the B team and is only relied upon at certain times. And Man United are probably also lacking that these days in terms of those players who are willing to do a dirty job for the team. Liverpool have that in abundance.
And all of a sudden, it feels like you've just got that depth, which is natural, it's organic, and it comes through. So that's all I have to say.
Tips from a Chelsea perspective. Obviously, you've seen multiple managers come in, but it's quite interesting with your side. Obviously, having guys like Azpilicueta, now you've brought in Thiago Silva, and the way you've managed that Champions League run last year, it kind of felt like there weren't that many stars, and Tuchel's got guys in and got guys buying in, and even the way in which Tuchel was treating Lukaku, when some people said was slightly unfair, kind of gave you an indication of where Thomas Tuchel's trying to take this Chelsea side, even though there's so much money around.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the amount of money that's around and the amount of quality within the team, and to keep the ship running and to keep things moving forward and to keep the team competitive. He really needs to draw and has been drawing on his senior players. The junior players like Callum Hudson-Odoi, the homegrown talents, they've been putting in good shifts. He did put in the cross for Romelu Lukaku. So Chelsea, I wouldn't say are quite hitting their straps as smoothly as Liverpool are, and you can see it on the log. But they're not too far off the pace. It feels like things just sort of need to start clicking. People need to sort of come into their elements, and people like Kovacic have also been stepping up in the midfield, and the midfield's always been strong. So the strength is definitely shining through. You can see that there's a competent manager in Thomas Tuchel. He has a reliable system, much like you guys said, that people can come in and out of. But it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't.
Than they are to Liverpool. Relax.
Say again?
Chelsea, in terms of points, are closer to United than they are to Liverpool. I beg you to relax. You're not in the big boys league. You can still get drawn into that battle for fourth.
Fair enough. That's not a lie.
You're not at the big boys table. The big boys table in the league is two. There's two big boys, and the rest of us are playing for the B team.
Okay, let's try change a little bit of tact here. Eddie Howe and what he's doing at Newcastle. Temple, is it a new manager bounce, or is it just Eddie Howe's been that guy, and he just knows how to bring out the best out of whatever he's got? Because that, outside of Trippier and Guimaraes and Chris Wood, that squad's not that great. And still has Joe Linton in it. So where do you put Eddie Howe and what he's done over the past month?
Yeah, the thing about the likes of Joe Linton is that he's relatively good on the ball. It's just his finishing is what's been a problem, and he really wasn't supposed to be in the front. But you could see that the fans really enjoyed watching him, and he was a very valuable member of that team. So you can definitely say that Eddie Howe did sort of bring a new manager bounce mixed with some really smart purchases. Kieran Trippier in the back. Exactly the place where Newcastle needed to sort of shore up, and now even stepping up, scoring goals. That senior presence that he brings, a very seasoned campaigner for England and abroad. So what he sort of brings to the team is exactly what they need. So competent purchases and once again a competent manager, and that's why they're probably, in my opinion, not going to be relegated this season. You just have to make smart purchases to stay in the Premier League, and that's what it looks like they've done. Also with the Chris Wood purchase, literally buying from your competitors to get them relegated. Burnley sort of having to struggle and to find a new a centre forward. So smart moves to sort of stay up in the Premier League. So yeah, very well done from Newcastle in general.
Wahid, would you have loved to have Eddie Howe there at Manchester United, or would you have loved for him to be in the running for whoever the manager is going to be in at the end of the season?
No, I think that would be a step too soon. And Man
Is it
United
another
have
Moyes?
Man United have struggled to find the balance between someone who's past it and someone who is still learning their trade. We had Ole still learning his trade. We had Van Gaal and Mourinho who were past it, and we need to find someone. We need to find the equilibrium between the two. And I feel like Eddie Howe would probably be more along the lines of Ole in still learning his trade. And I think Newcastle is probably the perfect spot for him right now in terms of having having a very big budget and having the freedom to try and sprinkle a bit of dust, like magic dust, on that squad, which it needed. And he's got that rabid fan base. He's got a lot of things that will aid in his development as a manager. He will be under extreme scrutiny in about a season or two, but he's almost been given like a hall pass this season, insofar as that we're down and out. Try and do what you can. Here's money. Here's lots of it. Try and get us out of trouble. So no, I don't think he would have been in the running for the Man United job. I do think that he might have been in the running for the England job post Southgate, but that's another discussion to have.
I have a controversial question here then.
Okay.
With Eddie Howe at the helm, and I mean no disrespect here, Wahid, and as things stand with Ralph Rangnick, and you obviously don't know who might come in, are Newcastle closer to winning the Premier League than Manchester United?
Yeah, I've fielded that question a few times now, and you don't know, because once upon a time Liverpool were in Man United's position and City were in Newcastle's position, and City did go past Liverpool and win a title before Liverpool did. And so the question would come around is that Man United are now in what Liverpool were during the Poulsen years and during the Hodgson years, and Newcastle are the new City on the block. So yes, but what you would need is Newcastle to put a perfect sporting project into place, which Manchester City did. Manchester City didn't just go hire a good manager and buy good players. They started off at a sort of a grassroots level, and they improved their academy, they improved their training facility, they put the right football men into footballing positions by bringing those Barcelona boys over and putting them into technical director positions and footballing director positions. And as it stands, I'm not sure Newcastle have done that. Amanda Selby looks like she's sort of trying to play the Galactico game by pointing at big stars, and I'm not sure she's surrounded herself with football people quite yet. And she potentially needs to do that for Newcastle to pull a City, if it were.
Okay, that's a very interesting outlook there, because I look at City and I look at Newcastle and I'm like, is this not Chelsea in disguise, or was Chelsea more of a let's get a good manager and then try get stars? Because Chelsea went gung ho for the stars.
Chelsea weren't in Newcastle's position to start with. They were never fighting relegation. They were never yo-yo team. They were everybody's second team. Chelsea were like a lovable bunch of loons in the late 90s. And what they needed was a bit of direction. They were always in and around that third and fourth spot. So it wasn't like they were like Newcastle up and down, a bit of a circus show, big fan base, but badly run club. And Newcastle have been badly run for a significant amount of time, and they'll need to clean up their club off the field before they can clean it up on the field.
Yeah, that is very true. One final topic of the day. I just want to get a quick thing around the thing. Is Antonio Conte a fraud? Was that new manager bounce? Was it just the fact that they couldn't get stars in January? I'm going to start with you, Jean-Emile. What do you think is going on there at Spurs?
Oh man, this is a tough question, because I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of the way he structures the defense. From his days in Italy, it was very effective in terms of how he found that balance with the wing backs and the strikers. When your main striker like Kane is showing such a deep Sorry, Wahid is just telling me Spurs is not a
Well, he just typed in our little group chat, Jean is like Spurs. Who cares? I support a big club.
But when you are Antonio Conte, you come into the club and obviously Harry Kane has been psychologically affected by the events which happened last summer when he was supposed to move to City. It's no doubt like played on his mind. He's not the same player in terms of his movements. Yeah, I mean he's popped up with maybe 1 or 2 goals lately, but certainly if you're looking to firstly pierce into those top 4 spots, even gun for the title at some stage. He's just not been good enough. You can't have Son running the show. You know what's been going on with their midfield and Ndombele leaving, and it's just the cohesion and the
What midfield?
Yeah, just this in general, the philosophy of what they are doing. I don't think it's coming through. Could it be a case? I know this sounds far-fetched. Could it be a case of communication and translation of what the tactics are from Italian into English, or could it actually be a case of the manager not being able to communicate with the players? There could be some things underlying which we don't know. The fact that he couldn't get Dele Alli to perform, who in my opinion still holds so much potential, and then ship him off to Everton, I honestly do see that. I know Wahid is.
I just saw that face too. We all saw that face too.
But we saw what he was able to do. Again, there's a psychological block, in my opinion, from what I can see, which Antonio Conte couldn't get through to him, and that's that. It's a bad period for Spurs because they got so much hope, and now as we said, they've just come crashing down to earth, and I do fear for them. I feel it's going to be a long fix because there's no obvious solution. That's all I can say for now.
Temple, you've obviously watched Chelsea under Conte. Does this look different to your manager, or is this one of those teething problems?
No, I think Spurs just try to fix a problem quickly. It was get a big name manager and then see if he can sort of bring life into this team that is very clearly over it. They're done, dude. They were done since their Champions League defeats. We never saw the same Tottenham again. Jose Mourinho did bring a little bit of a spark. They looked very good at the beginning, but then after that, coming back from Jose Mourinho, Wahid will tell you is a tough task. So these guys need a rebuild, and they need to ship Harry Kane. Like just please, just let this man go. He's Damian Lillard now, dude. Just let him go now, please.
Wahid, is that where this rebuild starts? Is that where we'll see the true Tottenham when they let go of Harry Kane and they try to build around?
I'm not sure Harry Kane is going to get the move he desires, because I think he's probably going to be priced out of a move. At his age, I think there'll be very few clubs willing to pay the price that Daniel Levy might want to let Harry Kane go, and I think once again Harry Kane might be priced out of a move. When it comes to Antonio Conte, I think that I said it at the time, and I think I might have been wrong when I compared it to Ralf Rangnick, because I said that Man United will obviously because Man United, whether we like it or not, had the option of getting Antonio Conte. We know very much that he was very desirous of Ole's job, and his people made it very well known to the media that he would jump at Ole's job. And Man United decided not to jump at Antonio Conte. And I know Dean, when he's on the call, often says that us beating Spurs was the best thing we could have done for Spurs because he got Nuno out and he got Conte in. And I said to him at the time, I said, is Conte the right manager? I said, at the time, I said that bringing in Conte might be a club panicking, and bringing in Rangnick might be a club who's building. And I will hold my hands up and say that I now have reservations about Ralf Rangnick that we can talk about at length at a different time. But I don't change my opinion about a club bringing in Antonio Conte as a bit of a panic, because I don't think that they had an eye on the future. I think that they had an eye on a very much a now aspect, thinking that he can sort of whip up a miracle. But the fact of the matter is that Daniel Levy and Antonio Conte had very differing opinions of how a club should be run in the summer. And that is why Antonio Conte chose not to take the Spurs job in the summer. In that 4-month period, nothing changed. Daniel Levy's idea of how to run a football club didn't change. And Antonio Conte was always going to struggle within the Tottenham structure where Daniel Levy eventually has the ultimate core. What Spurs needed was very much what United of the past used to do, is that constant, and Klopp has worked it very, very well at the moment, is have that constant squad turnover. Constantly add players to an already winning squad to keep that squad fresh, to keep the players in that squad on their toes, to keep the players moving forward and keep the squad moving forward. And what Tottenham went and did was they said, well, you know, we are actually really good and we don't need any players. We don't need to spend any money. But the problem with that is while you standing still, your competitors are moving forward, and they're now in a situation where the competitors have moved so far forward that they've got a hell of a catch-up job to do.
Yes, even a young Arsenal's moved above them, which is really surprising, but it kind of tells you of where this thing has gone. And a really great point on that squad rotation. Well, that brings us to the end of our show, guys. Thank you very much to Jean for joining us. Really appreciate it. And remember, Classic Shirt ZA, our t-shirt, our shirt of the day, not t-shirt, our kit of the week, by the way, is the Liverpool 1994-95 kit. Remember, use that discount code Cheapseats50 to get a discount. You can go there onto Classic Shirts and just get more shirts, different things. I'm waiting for them to release that Bafana 96 shirt, because that's going to be a
pre-orders in March, apparently.
So we'll be lining up around the corner for that. But outside of that, thank you very much, everyone. And goodbye, good night. Have a great weekend of football from ourselves here at the Cheap Seats. Le sale, kakahiso.